image from a blank canvas or you're editing an existing photograph, and then also how to save your work if you need to continue working on it or if you are done working on it and you need to turn it in. So we're going to start with the process for editing a photograph. So once you're in Photoshop, you can get a photograph in here 3 different ways. So you could go to File and Open. Here we go, File and Open, or Command O to open a document. You can find your document and you can drag it to the Photoshop icon and drop it and open it. I'm going to close this. Or you can just double click and it will open in Photoshop by default. So that's how we get our image in here. We want to do some edits, of course. So I'm not sure, it depends on the project, of course, for what you're working on. I'm going to edits here. I'm going to put black dropper and the white. And so we've got some quick edits, and I've done that. So I've got a multi-layer file here. So if I were to save this file and I needed to come back and work on it, I would go to File, Save As, and then here I want to make sure I give it a name. So we always want to name our stuff, your last name, the name of the project. So I'm just going to go black and white edited, and then I'm going to name it as my block. So I always want that information in there, and of course for you guys, you would put it into your Documents folder under your block, under your name, and you would save it here. And when this pops up, if it pops up, you just click OK. So that's our picture. Usually when I have you guys turn in work, it will either be an 8x10 or a 5x7. So that means you have to crop your image. And the way you do that is with this crop tool on the toolbar, and this kind of grays out the sides. So we want to make sure that the crop tool up here is set to width by height by resolution. So you'll click that, and that gives you these boxes where you can determine the size. So right now I have it 10 wide, 8 high, and my resolution is 300. And typically that's what yours should be as well, but it depends on the project, so make sure you read the directions. If I decide I want to flip this to vertical, I would just click these arrows and it changes it to 8 wide and 10 high. So that's your crop. You can resize your crop by dragging down the corners. And you can click within your picture and drag it around. The grid here helps you achieve rule of thirds. So use that to your advantage. So that's how you crop. When you've got it how you want it, you can apply this change by double clicking within your image. You can double click on your mouse. You could press enter on your keyboard, or you can click the checkbox up here to apply that change. Now, if I'm ready to turn this in to Schoology or any other way, I would want to make sure it's saved as a JPEG. So the way you do that is you would go to File, and you would do Save As, and when the window pops up, we've already got our saved name in here, so we don't have to enter anything else here, but we need to come to this drop-down menu and click JPEG. Do not type it in here because the computer will not recognize it. You have to click on the Format drop-down and select JPEG, and then click Save. When this pops up, you always want to make sure that quality is 12, maximum quality, and click OK. So now I've saved that and I can turn in my JPEG image for a grade. Now another way that we sometimes do projects in here is you'll start with a blank canvas. To do that, you would go up to File, New, or Command N on your keyboard, and it'll pop up a window to give us some choices on how we want to set up our document. So make sure you read the directions for what we're doing. I'm going to use the example of 10 wide, and I want to make sure this says inches. I'm going to do 8 inches high. And then if I decide I want to do it the other orientation, I can click here to switch it and double check the resolution for the project requirements, but I'm going to leave this one at 300. And then I'm going to click create, and it will give us this blank canvas. So once this is here, this is 8x10. So I don't need to crop this unless that's in the directions as an additional step, but this is already 8x10. So now to get my pictures in there that I'm using for this, I can do them a couple of different ways as well. I could drag the images in and drop them into the canvas like that. And of course here we have to do the check marks to apply that we want that in there. I could also go to File, Place Embedded, and that will bring this up where I can find my images this way and place them in. So I can place it this way. And there's that one. So you can see that every time we drag one or place embedded, it automatically creates a new layer. So with this one, if I'm here and class is getting ready to end, I want to save my work. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, Enter, save my file. So I'll do this one as collage and A1 as my block. And I want to make sure it's saved as a Photoshop file because that will preserve my layers so I can come back and edit them later, and click Save. Now, if I'm done with my work and I want to save it and turn it in, I can go to File, Save As, and then I would change this to a JPEG. and save it. And I'm going to show you guys the difference between a JPEG and a Photoshop file. Right here, I have 2 of them saved. So this is the one I just saved as a Photoshop file .psd. This was my JPEG. Now if I open up this in Photoshop, I no longer have my multiple layers, so I cannot edit those layers in there. So make sure that if you are still working on your project that you save it as a Photoshop file so you can continue editing. On the flip side of that, when you turn in your project into Schoology or in anything that is online, I cannot view it online if you do not turn it in as a JPEG. So it's really important to understand the difference of these 2 file types and use them appropriately. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. Have fun, happy editing.